The release of genetically modified mosquitoes has become one of the most controversial and debated strategies in global health. In Queensland, Australia, the issue has sparked heated discussion following a Commonwealth scientific and industrial research organisation-backed plan that proposes the release of genetically modified Aedes aegypti mosquitoes, the species most responsible for transmitting dengue fever and other viruses. The plan, put forward by Oxitec Australia, a collaboration between a British biotechnology company and the Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organisation, aims to suppress mosquito populations by introducing a strain of genetically engineered insects. Yet despite its ambitious goals, many scientists are expressing significant concerns about the potential consequences, ranging from ecological imbalance to interference with existing control programs. The genetically modified strain in question is engineered so that female mosquitoes do not survive to adulthood. This is important because only females bite and transmit disease, while males feed on nectar. The proposal involves releasing large numbers of modified males into the wild, where they would mate with local females. The offspring would then fail to produce viable adult females, leading to a gradual reduction in mosquito populations. On paper, the strategy promises a cleaner and more targeted solution than chemical insecticides, offering communities a way to curb the spread of dengue fever. However, concerns arise from the fact that this particular strain is not native to Australia. The strain originates from Mexico and has been tested in the United States and Brazil, but it has never been released in Australian ecosystems. Scientists like Dr. Perrin Ross, an expert from the University of Melbourne with more than a decade of mosquito research experience, have voiced strong opposition to introducing a foreign strain into the wild. He warns that such an approach risks introducing new genes into local populations, including those that may confer resistance to insecticides. While Australian Aedes aegypti mosquitoes are still largely susceptible to pyrethroid insecticides, resistance is widespread elsewhere. The worry is that foreign genetic material may undermine Australia's current advantage, weakening the effectiveness of tools that have been crucial in controlling mosquito-borne diseases. Beyond the threat of resistance, there is the issue of climate adaptation. Mosquitoes brought from Mexico carry genetic adaptations suited for their native environment, which could unintentionally give Australian populations traits that help them survive in harsher or drier climates. This unpredictability raises questions about how the introduction of foreign genes might alter the long-term behavior and resilience of local mosquitoes. Dr. Ross stresses that while it is impossible to predict the exact outcomes, the risks of such genetic crossovers cannot be dismissed. Another major concern comes from the potential disruption of an existing and highly successful mosquito control program already in place in Queensland. Since 2011, the World Mosquito Program has been releasing mosquitoes infected with Wolbachia, a naturally occurring bacterium. Wolbachia effectively blocks the ability of mosquitoes to transmit dengue virus. Over the past decade, this approach has virtually eliminated dengue as a major public health issue in far north Queensland. Scientists like Professor Cameron Simmons, who leads the global delivery of the World Mosquito Program, argue that introducing genetically modified mosquitoes could interfere with the Wolbachia approach. If genetically modified mosquitoes interbred with Wolbachia-infected populations, the delicate balance achieved through years of careful releases might be disrupted, undermining a strategy that has already proven successful in the region. The ecological consequences also weigh heavily in the debate. Mosquitoes, while often seen as pests, play a role in food webs, serving as a food source for birds, bats, fish, and other insects. Suppressing mosquito populations dramatically could therefore affect the species that depend on them, potentially causing cascading effects throughout ecosystems. Critics worry that releasing genetically modified mosquitoes without fully understanding these ecological relationships may upset natural predator-prey dynamics. For example, a reduction in mosquito numbers could force predators to turn to alternative food sources, which might in turn destabilize other parts of the ecosystem. Resistance remains one of the most serious potential outcomes of such programs. Evolution has shown time and again that when strong selective pressures are applied to a population, such as those introduced through genetic modifications or insecticides, there will often be survivors carrying genetic traits that allow them to persist. If even a small subset of Aedes aegypti populations are able to withstand the modification, They could reproduce and pass those traits on, leading to mosquitoes that are even harder to control in the future. In essence, the plan could backfire by accelerating the evolution of resistant mosquitoes rather than eliminating them. Insiders and critics alike have emphasized that the debate over genetically modified organisms extends far beyond the laboratory. The public has raised ethical, cultural, and environmental questions about releasing genetically engineered creatures into shared ecosystems. Unlike laboratory experiments, where outcomes can be contained, once organisms are released into the wild, the process cannot be reversed. This permanence means any unintended consequences would have to be dealt with by future generations. The Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organisation and Oxitec Australia have maintained that the program will only move forward after passing stringent regulatory approvals and extensive community consultation. They argue that genetically modified mosquitoes could provide an important tool for protecting Australian communities against diseases like Zika. Supporters believe that combining multiple approaches, including Wolbachia and genetic modification, may be necessary in a world where our climate is expanding mosquito habitats and prolonging disease transmission seasons. Still, the scientific community remains divided. On one side, there is recognition that genetic engineering holds enormous potential for solving some of the world's most pressing public health problems. On the other side, there is caution, rooted in a long history of well-intentioned biological interventions that have had unforeseen and sometimes harmful consequences. The introduction of cane toads in Australia to control pests, for example, serves as a cautionary tale of how ecological interference can spiral out of control. In the end, the proposed release of genetically modified mosquitoes in Queensland highlights the delicate balance between innovation and precaution. While the technology offers the possibility of reducing disease and saving lives, the risks associated with ecological disruption, resistance, and interference with existing programs cannot be ignored. For now, scientists and communities alike must grapple with the difficult question of whether the potential benefits outweigh the unknown dangers. Our oceans are vast, beautiful, and somewhat of a mystery. Beauty lies within the hidden depths. Even now we lack knowledge about the truths of our oceans and what truly lurks within them. Recently, marine biologists have warned that whales, along with other species, have started acting strange, highlighting that more and more beachings are happening around the world. Other creatures that have suddenly started washing up on shores include dolphins, octopuses, and turtles. These are just the latest reports to come from the animal world, and some of these events are confusing scientists. Birds have also been observed across the United States falling from the sky, causing wildlife researchers to conduct their own studies to try and figure out why this is happening. Although a variety of reasons have been put forward, none have been able to explain why so many animals have been observed acting strange. The same is happening with these whale beachings, and many experts who've looked into these events have labelled them as worrying. Scientists have said that the whales that keep on washing up on California beaches are unusual. Throughout the years, we have not treated our oceans with the respect it deserves. Now, whales have been washing up on California beaches. So far, more than 20 whales have perished upon the sands of the Golden Coast within the past few months. There's been some confusion over the cause, but researchers have listed several factors, such as the ongoing climate crisis and ships bashing into whales at high speeds, which is wounding or fatally harming them. In the California Bay Area, a fin whale and a massive 47-foot pygmy sperm whale were found beached, and even earlier in 2022, 4 whales washed up on California beaches in less than 10 days. Overall, it's believed that just over a dozen whales have been discovered deceased on beaches in 2022 alone. According to the spokesman for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, Michael Milstein, the entire phenomenon is atypical and extremely concerning, yet 2022 was not even the worst year for whales. In 2019, the total number of whales found perished reached 34. In 2021, that number totaled 18. By comparison, this has been a calm year, and yet nonetheless worrying. Since 2019, investigations have been ongoing to determine a direct cause for this frighteningly high number. Evidently, our sea life is threatened. Fortunately, the overall population of whales is not yet endangered, but should things continue on this path, there is no telling what could happen to them in the near future. Only 6 years ago, biologists believed there to be 26,000 whales living in the Northern American oceans. By 2022, they believe that the population has fallen to less than 20,000. As of right now, this is still sustainable for a population, but it's rapidly falling. The Biden administration has been urged by oceanic scientists to discuss with the United States Navy reforms of sea life safety codes. Her Majesty's Australian ship was said to have wounded several whales which entered the San Diego Naval Base, causing them to lose their life. As such, biologists are pleading for the Navy to readjust its rulings when it comes to its treatment of sea creatures. The official statement by the National Marine Fisheries Services was the following: "These deceased whales are grisly proof of the Navy's dire ongoing threat to vulnerable marine mammals. We're asking the Biden administration to find a better balance of marine protection with military readiness." End quote. Hopefully, these majestic creatures will be rescued and treated with sufficient care in the future. After the Navy's reluctance to answer to these pleas, the Centre for Biological Diversity gave the Navy a notice of their intent to sue if they do not act soon. Navy to re-examine effects of Pacific training exercises. Tied to previous happenings with deteriorating whale populations, the United States Navy has since agreed to re-examine its training practices and oceanic protocols. The United States Navy officially declared that it would look into the consequences of its current place training exercises regarding sea life. Specifically, the United States Navy is going to analyze its impacts on the populations of sea mammals. There are endangered species within regions of Hawaii and Southern California, which scientists are worried will soon become extinct if nothing is done, further saying that the Navy's harmful underwater training protocols remain unrestrained. This change was only implemented after the Centre of Biological Diversity made their intent to sue them, with some critics believing that if they had not, the Navy would have continued hurting sea creatures without care for the environmental damage. The intent to sue occurred after the discovery that San Diego's military destroyer vessel took the lives of 2 fin whales, which were attached to its hull as the vessel dragged their carcasses across the waters back to port. This happened in May of 2022, and the fin whales were found to be that of a mother whale and her calf. The Navy claimed that those aboard the military destroyer were not aware of the whales they hit, as they were focused on military training, only discovering the whale bodies once the vessel docked. A coalition was formed between the National Fisheries Service and the Centre of Biological Diversity to tackle the rampant issue of fated whales, both deciding that the Navy has to respond to its actions for the sake and future of sea animals in the Pacific. Kristen Monsell, who is the legal director of the Centre of Biological Diversity, said the following: "We're glad to see the Navy re-examining the harms of its training exercises on these mighty but vulnerable creatures. These military activities can wreak havoc on whales, dolphins, and other marine mammals through explosions, sonar, and ship strikes. We hope this process leads to new mitigation measures, like slowing ships down in important whale habitats." End quote. Although they cannot be blamed for the causation of all fated whales in the Pacific, the Navy's vessel strikes are now a known factor feeding deeper into the problem biologists are desperately trying to solve. Back in April, the Centre petitioned for the federal government to create a speeding limit for ships and boats passing through whale habitats with a maximum 10-knot speed limit on the waves to protect the whales from further danger. Federal records reveal that in the area of the West Coast, more than 26 ship strikes have taken the lives of whales, and this happened within just 4 years. In nature, whales live as long as humans, meaning that we are their primary cause of their demise. Studies published only in the past few months showcased that vessel strikes are twice as dangerous as we thought them to be and do immense amounts of damage to the creatures caught in their wake. It's theorized that the number of annual vessel strikes could be up to 20 times the recorded number, and this is due to the fact that whales which do not wash up onto beaches sink into the ocean, never to be seen on the surface again. Underwater explosions used by the Navy as military practice also damage sea life and put whales and other beings at risk. These explosions may not necessarily wound or take their life, but the aftermath can be horrific, with whales falling sick, becoming infertile or disturbing their breeding, ability to feed, or by messing with whale migration cycles. Zooplankton, a building block of all aquatic life, is vastly damaged by the sound of these explosions. Currently, the Navy is protected by a permit granted to them in 2018, which was meant to last 5 years, but has since been extended to be active until 2025. The immense amounts of damage to the creatures caught in their wake. It's theorized that the number of annual vessel strikes could be up to 20 times the recorded number, and this is due to the fact that whales which do not wash up onto beaches sink into the ocean, never to be seen on the surface again. Underwater explosions used by the Navy as military practice also damage sea life and put whales and other beings at risk. These explosions may not necessarily wound or take their life, but the aftermath can be horrific, with whales falling sick, becoming infertile or disturbing their breeding, ability to feed, or by messing with whale migration cycles. Zooplankton, a building block of all aquatic life, is vastly damaged by the sound of these explosions. Currently, the Navy is protected by a permit granted to them in 2018, which was meant to last 5 years, but has since been extended to be active until 2025. This permit allows them to be exempt from repercussions regarding any sea mammals, including dolphins and whales that they injure or harm. It states that there will be no repercussions as long as recorded cases of wounded sea life does not exceed 12.5 million. So far, the reported numbers have revealed more than 3,000 various marine mammals have been injured, 20 of which were humpback whales. There have been just under 10,000 cases of wounded or deceased blue whales. Mrs. Manning, a marine biologist from the United Kingdom, said that this is something that we are seeing more of, and that in general, sea life behavior has changed over the last 40 years, and that now we have documented proof of creatures such as whales and dolphins acting differently. She continued by saying that whales are bashing into ships at high speeds, which is in turn causing them damage, and that a large number of marine life seems to be deviating from their usual navigation. Further noting that sometimes these beachings will be caused by injuries, but she said that what some websites fail to mention is that most of the time those injuries are caused by humans, be it via fishing or in regards to the ocean being more cluttered with ships. An interesting study that looked into this found a direct correlation between negative whale behavior and Navy sonar. Although sonar has been an incredibly helpful tool during various points in history, it's safe to say that those who used sonar in the early days were not considering the impact on marine life when first using it. There are 2 different types of sonar, active and passive. Active sonar, which has been commonly used by navies, involves a device, known as a transducer, that emits a sound pulse into the water. When this sound pulse hits a surface, like a submarine or a whale, the pulse reflects back to the transducer, indicating that there is something in the water. These reflection pulses can then be calculated to determine how far away this object or creature is. Passive sonar, on the other hand, utilizes a system that does not emit sound, and instead listens to detect any sound that comes near it. However, since 2001, it has been determined that active sonar is extremely harmful to whales and other aquatic animals, specifically a type of active sonar referred to as low-frequency active sonar. Low-frequency active sonar emits sound at a decibel nearly twice that of a rock concert, and can maintain the decibel of a concert for 300 miles underwater. Not only is this incredibly loud, it's severely detrimental to animals who primarily use long-range sound underwater to communicate with each other, to find food, and to navigate. Low-frequency active sonar has led to animals losing contact with other members of their species, to them no longer foraging for food, and to them swimming deep or rising quickly because they are frightened by the sound. Low-frequency active sonar has also caused hearing loss and hemorrhages in whales and dolphins, and has contributed to a large amount of strandings, also known as beachings, in which many animals have passed away on land, either due to being beached or to the severe injuries sustained from low-frequency active sonar. This has disproportionately affected beaked whales, a type of whale that typically dives deeper in the ocean. The United States Navy's authorization of using low-frequency active sonar has come under legal battle more than once, and in 2012, it was found that the Navy was in violation of the Marine Mammals Protection Act of 1972. When brought to court, it was ruled that the National Marine Fisheries Service was not doing enough to protect sea life from the Navy, and National Marine Fisheries Service has since put limitations on the Navy's use of low-frequency active sonar. Environmental agencies, such as the Natural Resources Defense Council and other environmental groups, have also limited the Navy's use of active sonar, which is now only supposed to be allowed in mammal-free waters in certain locations. However, despite evidence of its harmful effects on aquatic animals, the Navy is still permitted to use low-frequency active sonar in our oceans. Sonar, which stands for Sound Navigation and Ranging, is a technology that uses sound waves to locate and identify objects in water. Sonar systems are used by ships and submarines for navigation and to locate underwater objects. The use of sonar has been shown to have negative impacts on whales and other marine mammals. Whales rely on sound to communicate, navigate, and find food. They use echolocation, a biological form of sonar, to locate prey and navigate in their environment. When they encounter intense sonar signals, it can disrupt their behavior and cause them to become disoriented or even stranded on shore. The loud sounds produced by sonar can also cause physical damage to whales. Some studies have suggested that exposure to high-intensity sonar can cause hemorrhaging in the ears and brain, which can lead to disorientation and even death. Whales are particularly vulnerable to sonar because they are highly social and rely on their ability to communicate with each other to survive. When their communication is disrupted by loud sonar signals, it can have a significant impact on their ability to find food and navigate in their environment. Overall, the use of sonar has been shown to have a negative impact on whale populations, and efforts are being made to reduce its use in areas where whales are known to inhabit. A resident of Michigan had an intriguing encounter with what he believes to be an angelic presence. His home security camera managed to capture a remarkable image depicting an entity hovering over his pickup truck. Glenn Thorman, the fire chief of East Jordan, received 2 photographs via email. These photographs were captured by his security system. In an interview, Thorman explained the awe-inspiring experience he had when he encountered what he described as an angel. The initial photograph captures a hazy and indistinct image positioned directly above the truck. Subsequently, a second image depicts the obscured object in motion as it moves further away. Thorman promptly forwarded the photos to his church leader, Daniel Mose, who at the time was serving as a pastor at the Jordan Rivers Church. Recognizing their significance, Mose promptly took to social media and shared the photographs. According to Mose, the presence of an angel symbolizes a divine protector who diligently keeps an eye on their home while they peacefully slumber. Throughout the night, they offered prayers, hoping that the angels of the Lord would encircle both of them and their property. This belief in an angelic presence reflects their deep faith and trust in supernatural guardianship. Mose stated that the photographs were completely untouched and were captured by a camera that is triggered by motion. These photos have not been modified or manipulated in any manner. The encounter with the angelic apparition is a profound example of the intersection between the mundane and the divine. In a world where technology often dominates our lives, this instance reminds us that there is more to reality than what meets the eye. The juxtaposition of an advanced surveillance system capturing a spiritual entity challenges our conventional understanding of the limits of perception and experience. The story echoes historical narratives of angelic visitations, drawing parallels to moments when divine beings made their presence known to humans. The fact that such an encounter was captured on a security camera highlights the contemporary evolution of our relationship with the divine, taking place in a digital age marked by both skepticism and awe. Upon reviewing the footage, the man found himself confronted with a profound mystery, a vision that transcended the boundaries of his ordinary existence. The encounter sparked a cascade of questions, leading to a deep exploration of its potential meaning. Such experiences often prompt individuals to turn to their spiritual beliefs, seeking guidance from religious texts, personal faith, and community interpretations. The power of interpretation is central to encounters with the divine, as individuals grapple with the question of whether the sighting was a chance anomaly or a profound sign from a higher realm. Some may see the angelic apparition as a symbol of protection, guidance, or a message of hope during challenging times. Others might interpret it as a reminder of the presence of the divine in our lives, transcending the boundaries of time and space. While skeptics may attribute the sighting to glitches or optical illusions, the encounter resonates deeply with those who believe in the existence of divine beings and the possibility of their interaction with our world. As of right now, there's many who believe that this was a genuine encounter. Angels, as celestial beings, hold a significant place in various religious traditions, and their appearances have been recorded in texts, stories, and beliefs throughout human history. In the Bible, angels play a central role as messengers of God, bridging the gap between the divine realm and humanity. These appearances are often marked by profound significance, guiding, protecting, and delivering messages to individuals and groups. In the Bible, angels are described as messengers of God who serve as intermediaries between the heavenly realm and the earthly realm. They are depicted as beings of light, purity, and holiness, created by God to carry out specific tasks and convey divine messages to humanity.